and welcome to yet another episode of the Virtuous Woman Show. My name is Sheila Juma, and I'm so happy that you have tuned in to this wonderful show. We hope you've had a great week wherever you're watching us from. Kindly do tell us where you're watching us from. You can text us on any of our social media platforms. We are the Virtuous Woman Show on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. You can text us on the numbers on your screen as well. Tell us where you're watching us from. If you have any questions for us, do feel free to ask on those platforms. If you have never watched our show before, karibu sana. If this is your first time, if you're returning, thank you so much for always being a faithful viewer. I know that this show has been a blessing and has made an impact in your life. If you're watching us online, go ahead and share. As always, I'm always asking you to share because we want this show to impact as many people as possible. We are so grateful to have you viewing us today. Today we are talking about gender roles in a society where the girl child has been empowered more than the boy child. These lines of gender roles have been blurred. And to talk with us about this very important topic, we have a beautiful woman of God on set with us, and I'm going to allow her to introduce herself. Karibu sana. You can go ahead. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Thank you so much.
Karibu.
My name is Margaret Mushendo. I'm a gender practitioner, and I work for Philadelphia Women Crisis Center, a shelter for women and girls who've undergone any form of sexual and gender-based violence.
Wow.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. That's very interesting. You said you work for what again? A crisis center?
I work for a crisis center. Yeah.
Okay, and you deal with women who have been through gender-based violence and all that?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, we shelter women and girls
Oh, you house them.
between the ages of 18 and 35 who've gone through any form of sexual and gender-based violence in its various forms.
Okay.
By that I mean rape, defilement, domestic violence, and other abuses.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very important information. So we can reach you if someone is watching and they would like to reach out to you for that.
Yes.
They can.
Yeah,
All
they
right.
can.
At the end of the show, we'll give her contact, and you can reach out to her or the contact of the Philadelphia station. What? Yeah, and then you can reach out to her if you are in such a situation. That's very beautiful. Now, today we're talking about gender roles. So maybe before we can begin, you can explain to us and define for us what gender roles are in our society.
Yes. Thank you. When we talk about gender roles, just as the name suggests, we are talking about aspects of gender and also aspects of the roles that the society has embedded or has bestowed on either a woman or a man. By definition, gender roles are societal, actually socio-cultural expectations by the society by the virtue of you being either a woman or a man.
Okay.
And when we talk about expectation, it can be either how should you dress, how should you act, how should you speak, by the fact that you are either a woman or a man.
All right, that's a very beautiful definition. Of course, this varies in cultures.
Exactly.
So maybe you can talk to us about here, where we are in Kenya.
Yeah. Like for instance, in Kenya, we have some societal expectation that the society expects that you, by the virtue of being a woman, for example, me being Margaret, there is a certain way the society expects me to dress, first of all.
Yes.
Like for instance, in the traditional days, in the olden days, we are now defying those norms. But in the olden days, you find that it was always expected for a woman to wear a dress. Whereas, when it comes to men, they were expected to wear long trousers. Even sitting, the way we are seated, it's a societal expectation that when you're sitting as a woman, you close your legs, and you are not supposed to just spread your legs. Whereas it was opposite for men. And when we talk about now gender roles in our Kenyan context, there are those expectations, like even when it comes to cooking, a woman is expected to cook. That's a role of a woman as it's defined socio-culturally. When it comes to nurturing children, that is the role of a woman, ideally. And when it comes to men, they're expected to bring food on the table. Yes,
they're expected to go out, get the money, and bring it home.
Exactly. And in some cultures, like for instance, the Kalenjin culture, that is where things like when they are referring to the family setup, you'll never hear them, when you ask them, who is at home? More often than not, you'll hear them say, Lakwane. They mean the children. So the woman together with the children, they are grouped together because the woman, society-wise, is expected to stay at home, look after the children, cook, wash clothes.
Yeah.
Those are some of the roles that are there in our cultures in Kenya.
I think even just in Kenya, not just Kalenjin, but that transfers to Kenya, where when a visitor comes to the home, they're not going to say, the man has not kept this home well.
Yeah,
it's the woman
exactly. It's the woman who has not kept the home well.
Yeah, I like that. How has the gender roles evolved over time?
Over time, gender roles have really evolved. And one, I would say, in the current society that we are living in, like in the Kenyan today, you will find most women are now going to work. They are employed. We have quite a huge number of women who wake up in the morning and they go to the offices and they work, unlike before, where women were prohibited from working. Their work was just to stay at home. More so, even in the political arena, like even in our very own context, the Nakuru context, we have seen so many women scoop the political seats. So they have evolved over time because women were not allowed. Initially, they were not allowed to go out there and work. That was the role of a man. But with time, and actually I would attribute this to changing economic times, where you find that that salary of a man alone, of a husband alone, is not enough. There are so many expectations, there are so many bills, there are so many things that have to move on in the house, and therefore the woman has to step out and get an employment. So it has evolved over time, and I think times are changing. Also, the aspects of digitalization, we find that now women, initially we didn't have more information that we can also bring bread at home. But now with the information all over, and also with education, so many women are now educated and they are going out there to look for work. So it has greatly evolved over time.
It's something you've said has begged a question in my mind. You've said with the digitalization, the world has become a village.
Yes.
With all this, the social media, internet and all that.
Exactly.
Do you think that our culture, for example, is able to be affected by Western culture, Eastern culture, because now of that exposure? And that, can you see anything in our culture today that has been imported from other cultures?
Exactly. With digitalization, even without going far, we have seen a lot of intermarriages actually. And if, for example, you're a Kenyan and you're married to a Western man, then, and remember we defined gender role as socially and culturally defined expectation, the social expectation. And now here we are blending. Therefore, and you see it's culturalization. When children are, when you give birth to children, then it only means the societal expectation will be borrowed from West
and East.
And now too, from Africa culture. And having said that, there is also a lot of effect of Western culture. Like initially, I started by saying women were expected, we were expected to wear dresses. Because remember gender roles, we said it's how you act, how you dress, what you do, what the society expects you to be doing by the virtue of you being a woman. And now with the Western culture, digitization, social media and all that, we are seeing that even our dress code has greatly changed. It has been affected by what we see, who we interact with, through either intermarriage, education, digitalization. So I would say from where I sit, a lot has really changed and has been affected by the Western culture.
Briefly, maybe you can tell us, does religion affect the way we view gender roles? For example, now the Christian faith, does that affect how roles are in our society?
In a way, I would say yes. Religion is part of our society. And like for example, some of us who are Christians and who value our Christian values, of course there is a dress that I would feel, no, this one I can't step with it in the church. So basically, the fact that I have some beliefs, I have some norms, I'm bound to go beyond what I'm being culturalized, and my Christianity, my religion comes in. So I would say it does affect a big deal.
Now, how do gender roles impact an individual?
They do. They impact greatly an individual. And what I would say, they have negative impacts, more so negative, but also positive.
Okay, let's start with the negative.
When it comes to gender roles, the way you are culturalized as a child is bound to affect you. Because for me, I would say it cocks capabilities. Like if I was trained that I'm a woman, so I should be docile, I should be meek, I shouldn't be aggressive, I shouldn't stand before people and speak out my mind, that affects my capability. And I would give an example, like for example, when it comes to education, most of the girls tend to shy away from STEM subjects, the science subject, the mathematics, because they were culturalized, those are hard things.
Yes,
therefore, they're for the boys, they're for men. And on the other hand, when it comes to men, they have been trained to cock emotions. Men don't cry. Your role is to go out there and defend women and all that. And that's why I would say you're seeing most of the boys, they are dying in silence. So sometimes it is a bottleneck to development because you're afraid. Me, I was trained to be kind, just sit down there, don't talk much. And also for the boys, sometimes it affects them because when they are not able to do something, they can't come out and say, I'm not able to do.
Yeah, they can't sit.
So unapata, they just push so hard until sometimes they break down. They cannot be able to move on. So it has some major negative effects. But then on the positive side, like when it comes to dressing, you see there are those, I'm not trying to say that to define a certain way of dressing, but sometimes we have had a society where we have people so much exposed. And now when it comes to gender roles, there is that aspect of dressing where a woman, you're supposed to dress like this, you're supposed to talk like this. So in a way, gender roles, they shape the society.
Yes.
And that is a positive aspect.
It gives structure to the society.
Exactly.
Wow. I like what you said, that it gives structure to the society, because when you know what you're supposed to be doing, everything works.
Exactly.
Yeah, and especially in the context of a marriage, where the woman knows what she's supposed to be doing, the man knows what he's supposed to be doing. But something about the negative aspect, maybe you can touch on, is when the men are not taught to maybe do some things for themselves, and they are expecting to find a wife so that that wife can do it for them. Is that a negative, or is that how it's supposed to be? For example, men cannot enter the kitchen.
I think from where I sit and from my interactions with people and the kind of work that I do, sometimes it's a negative aspect, I would say so. Because to a certain extent, it breeds gender-based violence.
Wow.
Because an instance where I'm not in a position to, but because you're trained, I should. For example, just to give a more elaborate example is, maybe I've been sick, I'm not able to go to that kitchen, or I just give birth. But because of the way you're brought up as a man, I'm the one who is supposed to cook at all times, and you cannot enter that kitchen. Then somehow I'm like, no, I cannot be able to, because my condition cannot allow me. I've had cases where women have been abused because they are not playing that societal expectation role that they are expected to be playing, even when they are not in a position to. So in a way, if it is taken out of context, in a way it breeds gender-based violence.
Wow, that's very informative. We're going to take a very short break, and then we'll be right back with this amazing topic on gender roles. And don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Just moment, and I just